Okay, we got a lot to talk about today. This is going to be a good one. I've actually got somebody in studio. I'll give you the story, the backstory on this guy. It's nefarious character. We have a fraught history, and I'm going to explain all this to you in a minute. All right, let's go. Okay, welcome back to Continue Freedom. If this is your first time here, welcome. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We are on X, Rumble, Locals, and YouTube. We've got a lot of things to cover today, but I've got a guest in the studio, and this guy, I'm going to give you a little history on him. So he once tried to poison me. He has beat me relentlessly with baseball bats and everything, and he did all this before we ever reached puberty. And this is my brother.
What an introduction, man! It's like how you already make me seem like it's horrible. Like
I was thinking about it in the shower this morning. I was like, how am I going to introduce this guy? And I was like, well, he tried to poison me as a kid. That's okay. I was in a crib. It wasn't.
I mean, Hamas looked like a school kid or something.
I thought that'd get you off guard.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, no, this is my brother. We're we've been talking about doing a podcast for a while, like the two of us sitting down.
A long time.
Yeah,
a long time, man.
I mean, we sit and it's like the three of us because there's three brothers. We sit down and we start going at each other on politics, and we don't agree on everything, which I think is a good thing. We had one, we preempted one of them, and
we're older now, so we don't do the other stuff. So don't worry, he'll still be podcasting 10 years from now.
Oh man, but no, we've been talking about it, and I did one with our younger brother. It was like 2 years ago. Did you see that one?
No, I never did get to see that one.
Okay.
I wish I could have, but I
Yeah.
didn't. My schedule doesn't allow me because, of course, under Biden, we're working 3 jobs and still trying to struggle to pay the bills.
Yes. It is. Yeah. It's nonstop. Like you take extra work wherever you can get it, just because. Yeah. But no, I did one with him, and we sat down. It was like 2 hours long, and you guys you're brutal because he wanted to do it at like 10 o'clock at night, and you wanted to do it first thing in the morning. I'm an afternoon guy. Golly. So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and
Get out of bed, get the coffee.
Oh man, I'm on an energy drink too.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's hit our first topic here. I love the Babylon Bee. And so, first one, Hamas offers to release hostages if Israel agrees to not exist. And then men pretending to be women go to lunch with a man pretending to be Catholic, talking about the Pope. And then an incredible Black Friday sale. They, if y'all missed that one, Lockheed Martin offering 2 wars for the price of one. So, there you go. I mean, satire. I love it. It's great. Yeah. And Babylon Bee is fantastic. Go follow him on Instagram, everybody. But we do want to talk about what's going on in Israel. Let me pull this one up real quick. The hostages being released, that's kudos to them for that, for being able to negotiate this. But releasing 14 hostages in exchange for 42 Palestinian prisoners, Egyptian officials say. So obviously Egypt, I'm assuming, is being the intermediary between the U.S. and Israel and the Palestinians. But a little bit more on this one, if I can pull it up here. Boy, be prepared, Jared. President Biden said Friday Hamas conducted its brutal October 7th attack on Israel in part because of a possible Saudi-Israel normalization deal. I don't believe that. I mean, I've talked about this a million times. If you want to understand why, just listen to the chants, right? Listen to the chants from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. This doesn't have to do with any kind of normalization of relationships. This has one purpose and one purpose only, as far as I'm concerned. And that's eradicating Jews, killing everybody in Israel.
There's spoken words in the Quran that talk about the eradication of the Jews. But all that aside, though, you have to remember, and what a lot of people aren't taught in school, is that the Jewish people had that land before Palestine ever existed, before the Palestinians were ever around. It was taken from them essentially by the Ottomans later on. So, I mean, where they talk about the Temple Mounts and they talk about which is a big deal between the Jewish people and the Muslims. But the thing is, the Jewish people had that Temple Mount in 600. They call it CE now, I believe.
I
not
refuse to
BC.
do that. I will
Yeah.
not be saying CE. No, it is AD, Anno Domini, year of our Lord. Thank you.
No, and well, the Muslims didn't have control of it until 700 AD. So the thing is we teach what they've been taught with this younger generation is, hey, 1948 and on. They don't go back in the biblical times, because heaven forbid we teach anything related to the Bible and Christianity or Judaism to our children so that they have a belief in God, if that is so doing on your behalf. But the thing is like, you go back that far, and it was the Jewish people were run out of that area.
Yeah.
And they fled to Europe. And then Europe persecuted them, so they come back to that area. Well, they needed a place to go. There were over 400,000 of them at that time, and so they needed a place to go. So we promised them in 1917, because actually a lot of people don't realize that's when the whole persecution of the Jewish people started in Europe.
Right.
And then, but we promised them that, and then in 1948 we give them the land. 25 square miles, I believe is what it was. Well, then the Palestinians decide, hey, we want that land too. We aren't satisfied with our section of land, so they attack them.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens, and that's where the history starts.
Well, and Israel has been, I mean, they have consistently withdrawn. So when they used to have the Sinai Peninsula, and they used to have Gaza, and they were co-living with people in Gaza, Jews and Palestinians. And they, Israel withdrew. They said, all right, fine. In the name of peace, let's pull out of Gaza. In the name of peace, let's give up the Sinai Peninsula. And so the Sinai Peninsula was, rich with resources. It was oil rich. I mean, the Sinai Peninsula is. And so they said, no, in the name of peace, we'll pull back. And it's still not enough for them. And now they are, these deals, it says Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire and hostage release deal that will free 50 hostages, including 3 Americans. And that was, I believe, in the first one. And so there's, Hamas on Friday released 24 of the nearly 240 hostages. And so I think this is a second deal. There's been multiple hostage releases. But here's what's killing me, man, is we are giving them back combatants. So these are the people that we have agreed to give back are people that, one of them was a 26-year-old woman who had stabbed a bunch of people in Israel, and so she was a prisoner. But they pitch this as, we're trading women and children for women and children, and that's not necessarily the case. So I don't know. I'm good. I'm glad that they're getting some deals done, but I hate the fact that they're having to negotiate with what I firmly believe are terrorists. I mean, I don't make any qualms about that. Hamas is, they're obviously terrorists, and this is negotiating with terrorists.
Well, yeah, and see, that's the thing is, like, if you look back in the history of Israel, they have never started any of the wars. It's always everybody attacking them, and they're like, well, fine, if you're going to attack us, here we come.
Yeah.
And that's why, Egypt was so apt to stay out of it at first, because, Israel gave them back a lot of land that they had taken from when they initially tried to attack them years ago. So it's like, but the thing is Israel is always striving for peace. They want the peace. It's just the Palestinian people won't agree to it.
Right.
And they say, we won't agree to it unless we have a state.
Palestinians, though, there's, while they voted in Hamas, but then people argue, and I would recognize this, that there haven't been any valid elections taking place in Palestine. But overwhelmingly, they say 58% of the people, whatever it is, voted for Hamas. And there are folks going in, journalists, that are asking Palestinians, do you support Hamas or not? And a lot of people say, yeah, I support Hamas. And they say, we're just defending ourselves and so on and so forth, because it is a complicated.
What would most people say with a gun to their head?
Well, true. But the other point to that is that there are people now like screaming it now that this war has kicked off. They're saying, no, this is all Hamas's fault. This is happening because of Hamas. This is happening because of Hamas. And we say that it's Hamas is what's the way to put it? That we talk about the victimization of people that, and they use the
We love to use victimization in today's world.
right.
I mean, it is like everybody's a victim.
But here's the thing. Just like we did, right? We had to stand up against a superpower that was oppressing us as a country. And the Palestinians, if they don't like Hamas, you have to stand up against those people. It's happening in Myanmar. I mean, in Myanmar, there is the military junta took over, and they're slaughtering people in Myanmar, and yet there's rebel armies that are forming to try and fight against the government. Well, kudos to them. That's what you're supposed to do if you have a dictator that takes over. You have to stand up. And people don't, and they turn to the U.S. to do something, or they turn to the West, to Europe, and say, you all need to do something about this. Well, I'm sorry, but this is where I become anti-interventionist. Is I'm like, you got to try yourself first. Like, if it's so bad, in Gaza, then stand up against Hamas and take over and make it what you say it should be, which is.
And I get that argument. The thing is those people for centuries, Hamas has beaten them down to the point they're terrified of them.
Yeah.
So they aren't going to stand up against them. And even if they don't agree with their rhetoric, if they don't agree with what they're saying, they're going to do it because they're in the back of their mind. They're like, well, they're going to come kill my family, my wife and kids.
Yeah.
So they aren't going to take that initial effort, and it's trying to find somebody to stand up against them.
I disagree. I mean, I think that your premise is right. Like, they have been beat down and they feel defeated, but there's ways to, we saw it in Iraq. That in Afghanistan is one of those places where it was very similar, right? Only it was not a dense populated area. It was people in like rural parts of the country. Like, most of it is rural neighborhoods and towns and stuff like that. But this is a dense populated area. You could fight an insurgency against Hamas, and there could be the potential is there for an uprising, and for people just because it happened in Iraq, they would just start executing Al Qaeda. They didn't like Al Qaeda, and so they just go in and start killing them. Mm-hmm. And there were little bands of people saying, "Nope, I'm tired of this. I'm not going to live with these people, having their boot on my throat." And so little militias popped up and started killing Al Qaeda. I mean, it is possible, but for some reason the onus is put on us to do something about it, and I don't know,
because we always take it on, and I think that's where across the world, I think that's where like Trump was so right. And hey, look, you all carry your fair share, because it's always thrown on the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you all foot the bill.
Yeah,
let's I am for the support. But at the same time, though, I think the European nations also need to be throwing their money in. It shouldn't be all based off what the U.S. does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they turn to us, and 9 times out of 10, the UN's not going to do anything except send the U.S. in.
When we give it up so freely, I mean, we give up the money without any question asked. I mean, as if we have boatloads of it. And that's where I kind of, I didn't want to get into this level of detail with it. However,
hey, it could stretch that way.
I know, but my beef is that I have become very anti-interventionist. I'm so tired of all these wars that we're fighting, and we're so bad at it. I mean, we're terrible at regime change war, and yet it's like always in the news. Where are we going next? Just ask a Lindsey Graham or one of those people, a Dan Crenshaw. What's the next war? We've been doing it in Ukraine. We've been doing it, in the Middle East and Syria and all these places.
We're doing it in Ukraine so we can save Biden's buddies over there.
Well, yeah, I think that's true. But we, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the regime change war. But I also recognize Israel's importance in that region. So I always say that if we're going to sell them weapons, I have no beef with that. Yeah. But if we're going to just give them stuff, we don't have the money or the resources to do that.
Well, I would rather, though, here's my thing, is I would rather send my money and my means to Israel than I would be paying the hundreds of millions of dollars for hostage releases in these countries. And I know that sounds kind of coarse, but at the same time, here's the thing: you got to remember that our philosophy for years has been don't negotiate with terrorists. Because what does that breed? It breeds exactly what happened that we saw happen in Israel and between the Israelis and the Palestinians, where they start taking American citizens for money. So they're using that to help fund their war.
Right.
So they're bringing that money in, and they're like, oh, if we take Americans, they're going to pay to get them back. And guess what? Guess where that money goes? It goes right back into it. So the thing is, when you had somebody like Reagan go in there back in the 80s, Reagan goes in, and he's like, he'll send a small team in, annihilate the people that are in charge, and then they're like, all right, we're handing you your people back. That's and you would
Well,
be
he got
way
the
less
he got the
money.
people back once he got elected.
Yeah.
like the Iran, it was immediate. They were like, okay, this guy now.
Yeah, but it also occurred with the death of Gaddafi's sons,
Right.
And Gaddafi was not faring so well in that himself. So you have to remember that Reagan came in, we're getting our people back because you don't touch Americans. And that's always been across the globe for years. You touch an American, it's like big brother, little brother. You touch my little brother when you were little.
Yeah.
Hey, big brother's coming too.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming to the fight, no matter how much we disagree on anything. And so that's the way it's been for years. So nobody messed with people in foreign countries. Now it's gotten to the point where we're negotiating with these terrorists and we're negotiating with these people and we're saying, we'll give you money. We'll give you money to get it back. Well, they don't have a steady economy there.
Yeah.
So they're like, we'll take that money.
We'll take the money, yeah.
And then here we go, off to fund our war.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. I think that, once we started to bend the knee and say, yes, we will negotiate with terrorists, we set the precedent we were trying to avoid by saying we will not negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
I mean, and now the floodgates open when that happens. Like there's no going back from that until I won't say no going back from it. Americans will get taken, and then you will have to have that argument now. Before we had it, firmly established that we will not negotiate with terrorists. Mm-hmm. So people didn't take hostages. And they knew if they did, they weren't getting anything for it other than, like you say, getting kicked in the butt. But now it's just like, okay, yeah, we'll pay you, and you're going to get something out of this deal. And like you say, they can use it to fund wars. They can, use it for leverage in multiple different ways.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, it's just, and that, I'm trying to find a good segue to get to this, but the stuff that we were talking about with Donald Trump, he was the guy that, even though I don't like the person I'm quoting, but walk softly, carry a big stick. That was kind of his thing, right? Yeah. I'm not a Roosevelt fan.
Yeah, I didn't like either, especially the younger one.
Yeah. And so you sent me a bunch of stuff where they're trying to, which is weird. This was a hard thing for me to frame anyway, but when you talk about them trying to shut down Donald Trump now so that he can't get reelected, you think about what he did from a world peace perspective when he was in office and the reputation that he had, and now trying to keep him out. This, I still believe, and it might be too simple of an answer, but the military-industrial complex is a huge player in all of this, in the censorship, in the funding of the Democrats, and the funding of the big R Republicans, the ones that don't want him in office. Because when Donald Trump is in office, they aren't making money because he's not starting any new wars. He's not, he helped in Ukraine. I mean, I did a video not too long ago where I talked about Donald Trump. Where I don't like war, but Donald Trump, he's the one that got the ball rolling on Ukraine, which is not a good thing. He was giving them more weapons than Obama ever had, and we use that to say, well, this is why he isn't a Russian stooge. And,
well, here's the thing, though, in that. We had already moved in under Obama into that area, okay?
Yeah.
So we had pushed people into Romania and all the outlying countries. We knew Russia was going to be coming for him at some point. Well before it was ever published in our, news or media or whatever. I think in preparation, you giving them ways to defend themselves is a good way to deter them. However, you look at Donald Trump, he also didn't allow Russia to build the pipeline. So Russia had no real economic strength at the time. And when Biden comes into office, he allows them to build their pipeline, and now they're the largest supplier of gas to their natural
Oil,
gas.
yeah.
Oil, yeah.
Is it oil or natural gas or both?
I think it's both to Europe. Yeah. So that's the thing Biden set the precedence for the whole war to be started. You can't do anything without finances. If the soldiers aren't getting paid, they're going to go do something else.
Right.
So, I mean, so that's the thing they have, by putting the onus on Trump, he actually was preventing it, and Biden allowed the finances to come into play. So had Trump not send those weapons in, think of where the Ukraine would be now. They'd be Russian territory probably.
Right.
I mean, I can't say 100%.
Yeah.
But
True. Yeah. I mean, well, that's my big thing is like, okay, Trump didn't get us into any new wars, but he also stabilized, our global position, stabilized global security because it can be done through finances. It's the perfect point that you just made. It's about the money. So if they don't have the money to carry out the war, there won't be war. Right. I mean, that's basically it. And as the most powerful most powerful country, debatably now, but still the world reserve currency and all of those things, we still have some advantages. If we can leverage our finances and we can leverage our trade because we are the largest consumers in the world, then, I mean, that's how you stabilize. And that Donald Trump did that, and they do not like it, which is why I still say it's the military industrial complex that's doing it.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know if you've ever watched. Have you ever watched Jack Ryan?
No, I've never seen him.
So I
need
watched
to watch him.
Yeah, so I watched that series on Netflix, and one of his quotes in there, it was kind of funny, was "Follow the money."
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
And it's true. It's so true, even in real life. You follow the money, you follow what's going to be going on.
Yeah,
it's like that's why a lot of senators vote the way they do, because they're following the money. They're getting their money.
Well, and another reason to get super PACs and things like that out of politics. I'm very much against super PACs and the money that they can pump into and the way that they can buy political candidates.
Yeah,
by circumventing our laws. Political donations are capped, but not if you're donating to a super PAC. So there you go. Here's $30 million. Do as I say.
Yeah,
and that's really what it is.
Well, and that all boils down to getting through the lobbyists. I mean, I know we're getting kind of off subject here, but just a quick backstory. I knew a fella, and he went to work for a lobbyist firm in his state, and that state this is just state level, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They started him out at $55 a year.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lobbyist that was there. Just on state level, he was not federal, making $750,000 a year.
Not surprising.
And so, but see, that's what I'm saying. They're getting funded by all these companies, and that's where those guys are the ones that wine and dine these senators and congressmen to get what they want. Now, how many small business people have the means to get a lobbyist on their behalf? And that's
you don't. And they say that the unions are there to lobby on behalf of not the small businesses necessarily, but the small employees. Those guys, I don't know if you saw that lobbyist, he wasn't a lobbyist. He was the head of the auto workers union, I believe. That the senator threatened to fight. Did you see that one? No,
I'd miss that. No.
Actually, in the Capitol, he was questioning him. And they had gotten in this Twitter battle, and this senator used to be an MMA fighter. Like, the guy's jacked and diesel, and this he's a mobster is the way he looks. He was like, I'll go anytime. And the guy gets up and he does the whole wedding ring thing. Like, all right, do I need to take my wedding rings off before I start going fisticuffs?
I'll have Tony take care of it for me.
Well, Bernie Sanders had to get in and be like, no.
Who wants to break Bernie's
You
head?
are United States Senator.
When Bernie breaks up your fight, it's getting bad.
Oh, it was bad. When
you got a 90-year-old that can barely walk.
Steven Crowder called him that Muppet rinsed on hot, or That washed up Muppet rinsed on hot. That's what he called Bernie Sanders. Something to that effect. Anyway,
sorry.
no. Yeah, and I digress. But yeah, the lobbyists are, in DC. These people are 9-figure incomes, or not 9-figure. I'm sorry, they're 7-figure incomes, and that was another piece of it. Shut down Donald Trump because he kind of ran it almost like the mafia, if not in a bad way, but in that he had people he could trust and a lot of family members instead of lobbyists. So Don Jr. and Eric and all those people were in the White House.
Well, I think though that you have to be careful because the mafia and it's people he trusted.
Yeah.
He believed that were close to him.
It's a family thing.
That he knew weren't going to stab him in the back because he knew he's going in the hostile environment.
Yeah.
I mean, for anybody to say that he didn't know, but he didn't know how hostile they would get, given now they're going after his companies. They're going after him and himself, charging him these erroneous felony charges and all this, anything they can draw up. Letitia James, of course, kicking off the whole thing with all her stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Because it has just gotten to a point now that that's why the American people are standing behind him.
Yeah.
They know that the government's going after him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing is we have to realize the American people aren't stupid. The American people are smart enough to realize, hey, they're going after him because he actually represents us and they want to retain their power. So we're throwing 100% behind the guy that's fighting the establishment.
Yeah.
And I think that is the big thing. I think that is the thing that the establishment hates because.
Well, let me ask you this. Donald Trump is one. Do you think that, I'm sure, did you see my Vivek Ramaswamy video?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
I want to come on your podcast. I don't watch it, but
I do watch it. I do. I just missed that one.
Well,
I just recently got back from a trip and I've had a lot of
yeah,
stuff going on.
I know.
So
I got
haven't
you.
had a chance to-
Just giving you a hard time. Yeah. No, Vivek is he's tapped into a lot of that Trump energy, and he says a lot of the same things. I just think he says them better than Trump. But he's. I think that if it needs to be Trump 2024, because Trump is going to come in there with this vision of revenge, which I think is a good thing, because revenge against the establishment and against the these cronies that have been in there for a long time inside the executive branch, at least, that he can get rid of. He can exact a bit of revenge and get rid of some of these inside players, but I think that a Trump and then segue over to a Vivek for 4 years or for 8 years. That's what our country actually needs. Trump's not going to fix it. He can't fix any of these problems in one term, in the one term that he has left. It's going to take multiple terms of.
Well, the bonus side is that Romney and McConnell have both said they're not running. So there we've got two Democrats right there that are under the guise of the
yeah, but who's going to replace them?
But here's I think that Romney, I think in his respect, I think you'll get somebody fairly decent because I think that Utah.
You think?
Yeah, because I think Utah's done with that mentality. But see, here's the thing.
It doesn't matter what Utah wants. I don't think it matters what Utah wants.
But here's the thing. McConnell controlled the money. And if you look back at even the senatorial election that they tried to blame on Donald Trump because Donald Trump went out and supported these candidates, probably what got them close. And that's what I hear a lot of people talk about that really frustrates me because they forget to mention that Mitch McConnell pulled that money out of those races to put it toward Lisa Murkowski in Alaska.
Yeah.
So he pulled millions of dollars, it's around $9 million out of all these other funding because he controls all the money for the Republicans. There again, going back to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He controls all the Republican money instead of putting it where it mattered because the female that was running against Murkowski up there said she would not support McConnell. So McConnell pulls all the money from everybody else and pumps it into Murkowski.
McCrabsky.
Yeah,
That's what it
if I
sounded like
can
you were
get
about
it.
to say.
But anyway, but he puts it into her so
Yep.
that she'll win because he knows, because she already said she would put her support behind him. So you have to realize that it is not. They have gone after him. He is their enemy because he can't be bought. He is, and I know I know how well the economy did under him as well. So I mean,
Right. Well, I just think that the same people that control the money are the ones that are going to make the person run that's going to be the super PACs, whether it's the super PACs or it's the RNC or whoever it is. The people that control the money are going to pump money into anyone that is aligns with the big R Republicans, and
it depends on who you get in charge, because here's the thing is I think they're afraid right now it's just the same as what we were talking about earlier with the Hamas situation over the Palestinians and all. They're afraid to go against McConnell because then they won't have money to fund their reelection campaigns.
Right.
Okay. So if you get somebody in there and you're able, because I see a new generation coming in to our Congress that is more interested in the American people than the past generations have been. Because the McConnells and the Romneys will all go along to get
they're
along.
legacy guys.
We'll give up this, and then while the Communist Democrats through the whole thing were taking up everything, and we're relinquishing stuff, so they're gaining more power.
It's our compromise. We compromise to the left. We've never in my lifetime never compromised to the right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I get it. I know 100%.
Yeah, that line, that middle line, has only moved to the left, and part of that's our society. I mean, it's just where society's going, but a large part of it is gutless Republicans, and it's why we need people like Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, people that can actually shave down the federal government.
You look at the criticism Ted Cruz took,
right?
Through all where his support, he's always been. They tear him up in the news media. He's always been, whatever you think of him.
Not a fan, but
I know.
I used to be. I wanted him to be he was my pick for the first go around.
But here's my thing: is he's always been behind the American people. He's never really put and they find any chance they can get to ridicule him.
Sure.
So I mean. And then you've got the Gateses and those people like that. You look at those people, and they are the new revolutionaries that are in our Congress.
Yes.
That I think are going to push it forward. And now they're getting a little age on them, so they're able to push forward and how to get what they want.
And I agree with that. I think we need more people. I mean, Matt Gaetz is kind of one of a kind, I guess. But when you talk about the Lauren Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens, those are a little bit too. For everybody to take seriously. Matt Gaetz is easier for everybody to take seriously.
Are they really, or is it just the press that they get?
No, it's because I listen to them.
I mean, and I understand, but in their general mindset,
yeah.
I mean,
their mindset's in the right place,
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, their mindset's in the right place. Their delivery is terrible, and in my opinion,
exactly what they go after Donald Trump for. And that's exactly what they try to push, because if you go up to somebody on the street and you go, "Hey, what did you think of Donald Trump?" "Well, I didn't like his mean tweets."
Right.
What about his economy? "Oh,
right.
He had a great economy. He kept us out of all these wars. He stopped North Korea from firing off missiles."
I'm not saying
I don't like his tweets.
Well, and that's also my point, is that the delivery of the message to make it palatable for more people is you don't go the way of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Sorry.
I mean,
I like what they're doing. I respect what they're doing. I think they're doing the right things. They're going after the right things and pushing the right legislation and all of that. But their delivery is, and it might be part of it is because they're jaded. They've been attacked so much, and run through the mud on some. Every time they open their mouth, people are calling them racist and bigots and the same old nonsense, and it might be getting to them. But I feel like Matt Gaetz he works with them. But he is A, more eloquent, B, he's quicker and wittier. He's able to do it with a scotch of humor, every now and then. Like, his delivery is much more polished than Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert.
I think
they are
So what you're saying is that they need to send their speeches to Gates before they open their mouth.
maybe yes, yes.
Like, hey, come in here a minute. I need to talk to you. I got this speech written. It's like, oh no, we ain't going there.
Oh gosh, your laugh, dude. You just redlined my microphone.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes, send your speeches, Congresswomen. Send your speeches to Matt Gaetz. But it's not even their speeches; it's just how they respond, like on the fly. You know what I mean? And Donald Trump is much the same. He's not polished, and some people like that about him. Yeah. They like the fact that he's not this. And I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly critical of them, but it's not that they have to be this robotic, like typical politician. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what everybody expects out of him. And see, here's the thing, though. Have you ever met anybody from Brooklyn? Oh, my gosh. Of course. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. They're all like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like, and what I always find funny when I meet people.
Move closer to that microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
So, but what, sorry, not used to all this like he is.
Yeah.
But what I always find ironic is that's the way they always, that's the way they are. That's just how those people are up there. They speak their mind. They're not that they're bad people.
Yeah.
I mean, I always liked them because I'm like, hey, I know where I stand. You know,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't like me, you're going to tell me.
Sure.
So it's like, hey, you know, they're good folks.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. Now we had. I'm gonna pull up one of these articles here. Let's pull this up because we've been talking about it, and we'll see if I've got these in the right order. But you know, you talk about them going after Trump. This is him claiming. So this is CBS News claiming that Truth Social has lost $23 million this year. Its accountants warn it may not survive. Was that? Let me pull that one up. Here we go.
That was through CBS News.
Yeah, that was through CBS News.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. It's like when I was going through some of these articles too, I don't know if you noticed, but it was like they copy and pasted everything from the same rhetoric. Yeah. So that's what's wrong with the media now. It's when they're going after Trump, but they're just copy and pasting the same rhetoric from one to another to another.
Yeah.
And then everybody that comes out on the other side of it, Newsmaxes and the OANs and the Fox News, they go after them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so it's like, so with that, I mean, you know, Trump, he's starting a social media account. Well, I mean, in all honesty, if you look back, I think it is set that 5 years before you ever start seeing somewhat revenue.
It's on average. Yeah.
It's on average.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't immediately say right off, and they're all they go after him. They can find any way in the world to go after him.
Yep.
And any media outlet that supports him, and because they want to be in control, and it's about government control. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And
well, you know. No, it's state media. I mean, it's really what it is. This is a state media. Because you hear it with the Democrat Party, so and every conservative commentator out there has played the videos where you will play congressmen and women, news anchors on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, and CBS, and NPR and all that, using the exact same terminology, the exact same verbiage, and that's one way that they are, I would say messaging wise, superior to Republicans in that. That's what happens when you go against a state media.
And here's what I find ironic, though, is you look at I always call them the communist broadcasting system. So I got to be careful. But NBC, CBS, ABC, if you go out today and you buy you a digital antenna, what are the three stations that you're going to get? NBC, ABC, CBS.
Yeah.
Free television.
Yeah.
You don't pay anything other than the digital antenna that you bought it. Right. Now, when you go into Fox News, now they're going after Newsmax, they've declared war on Newsmax, and OAN, they already did that. And they've gone out and declared war on these conservative news channels, trying to silence them. Mm-hmm. Yet here I can go out, buy me a digital antenna for $30, and I can pick up the communist channels all day long. So they do reach more people. They reach more people for the simple fact of, hey, I can't afford to buy cable because the economy stinks right now. I'm trying to censor my language.
Yeah, we like. I try to keep it PG. As best. PG-13.
PG-13.
We'll do PG-13.
Yeah, well, if I can go there, I could use that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, because everything stinks, I can't afford the cable. I can't afford the satellite. So I'm going to go with the antenna.
Yep.
And so therefore, every morning I wake up, see Good Morning America, and everybody jumping around, telling me how bad Donald Trump is every night, how bad his tweets are, and all these crazy charges that they're pushing out on it. They just pull out their.
Well, this is wild. I didn't realize
sides.
this. CNN is making no mistake about it. It wants to censor and close Newsmax from broadcasting as a cable news channel. Apparently jolted by the fact Newsmax has skyrocketed to become the fourth highest rated cable news channel in the country. Yeah. The liberal CNN is decrying what it calls Newsmax's election denialism and is seeking to have it deplatformed from cable and satellite systems across the nation. Oliver Darcy, CNN's left-wing media critic, has been demanding cable operators drop Newsmax, which is currently carried by every major system in the nation. Newsmax is also streamed free by most OTT platforms and devices. That's wild. I had no idea that they were that big. I knew that that with them and OAN and other more conservative outlets. After all, it was the very lies that Fox, Newsmax, and OAN spread that helped President Trump supporters into not believing the truth that he lost an honest and fair election. Darcy wrote. Goodness gracious, they're still going with this stuff,
Well, this was, I think that was, when was that article published?
This one was
2023.
2023. It was, looks like Friday to Friday.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yesterday. It was published yesterday.
Yesterday. Jeez,
yeah.
Pete. Wow.
Yeah.
On top of it here.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
So here's the thing. CNN stinks anyway. I think their viewership is only because of the parents that are watching their kids on TV for national television. So, but
say that again.
I said the only reason that CNN has any viewership is because the parents are watching their kids.
No, it's because they played in airports.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Okay.
So their viewership is limited solely to.
Sorry, I keep getting away from that mic.
No, you're fine. Their viewership is solely limited to Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, and wherever else they happen to be playing CNN. Nobody else is watching CNN in their house.
But
come on, they tried to sell it, right? And nobody would buy it. They tried to get like $10 billion for it, and now they're trying to get $1 billion if they can.
It's like that used car sitting on the lot with like three wheels on it. Like, take $50 for it. Just get it out of my way.
I got this car on blocks, man. ain't got no motor. It's up on blocks, but I'll make you a real good deal on it.
$50. At least you can get scrap price out of it.
Yeah. So nobody wants it. Yeah. I mean, what do you expect, right? I mean, they've.
But amongst the communist Democrats on Capitol Hill, they do have a voice. And what I find ironic is during the big instance where DirecTV was dropping Newsmax.
Yep.
So they dropped them, and there was a lot of backlash. Well, if you've read some of the articles back in there, you can go back and listen to where the Congress is like, well, we're going to quit subsidizing AT&T, who owns DirecTV. It's like, wait a minute. What the heck are y'all doing subsidizing a private company in the first place? I didn't authorize my tax money to go to it. So, this comes from that too big to fail stuff. But the thing is if you look, it's because Newsmax is growing membership or growing viewership. And then now the cable companies have dropped Newsmax.
Yeah.
So now they're having to go to a subscriber system only because of all this, because the communist Democrats have gone after these conservative news channels to silence their freedom of speech. And
okay, here's the question though: if DirecTV is a private company,
red, white, and blue water.
If this is there you go, Merkel water. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Distilled from the bilge of Elon Musk's yacht.
I'd take it.
And so, anyway, if DirecTV is a private company and OAN or Newsmax or whoever it is, to be intellectually honest, we have to say that they have a right to not carry them.
Oh yeah, they do have a right to.
We can question their motives, but they have a right to not carry them.
That's their right. But here's the thing: why are you going to keep the CNNs, the MSNBCs that have the least amount of viewership, where, like you were just talking about, the fourth largest news channel in the nation? Why would you silence them versus? And,
Well,
I know you need both sides of the argument. Like, I am totally for freedom of speech. Like, do not get me wrong in all this. But here's the thing: if you're going to do it for economic reasons, then I think you better start looking at who produces the least amount. And
Well,
start
yeah,
getting rid
well,
of them.
okay, you got to do what makes financial sense. But did it make financial sense for Bud Light to do what they did and then to double down on it later on? No.
And now they're regretting it, and they fired her.
Yeah,
so-
finally, yeah, like what, 6 months later, 8 months later? Good gracious, who are you or me? We wouldn't have had that job anymore. But yeah, I mean, does it make sense for them to do that? Does it make sense for people like NASCAR who got involved in wokeism and took a hit, NFL to get involved in wokeism and took a hit?
Like, NFL decided later on that, hey, we kind of screwed up.
Yeah, they did, but they know that this is predictable in the market. People don't want to see that kind of stuff.
But here's the thing, and that's what directed the NFL to turn away from it. That's what's directed a lot of these people to change their whole outtake on it. Like the whole, I mean, of course, I'm going back, and I know I hate to even bring it up, but the whole kneeling situation with the national anthem and all that other mess. They got over that, and they're starting to catch their viewership back, and they're like, we ain't going to do this again, because if we do it again, we're going to lose more viewers.
Yeah. I mean, if they, I just don't think that it's always financial reasons. I think that pressure from people like BlackRock and folks that are trying to change they're forcing change, as what's his name said, the guy that Fink, Larry, is it not Larry Fink? What's his name? The guy that runs BlackRock.
Yeah.
I mean, he is openly admits it. The World Economic Forum openly admits that they are trying to change the market, like force change on the marketplace. So it's not necessarily about money. They have more money under management than our country gets in tax revenue by many times. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're talking about 15 trillion or something like that under management. Like, come on, between them, State Street and Vanguard, between BlackRock, State Street and Vanguard, they can lose a few billion here and there, and it's not going to upend things. But this is part of that forced change. And I feel like some of it's a test bed too. Like they're testing the waters to see if how much they can get people to go along with. They did that with the lockdowns. They've done it with, foisting things upon the American people that we otherwise wouldn't have wanted, but putting us in a situation where we don't really have a choice. It's testing the waters.
Well, here's the thing, is so I cannot remember his name. There was a interview. You can actually watch it right here on YouTube, between a KGB agent and ABC News reporter.
Okay. I think I remember seeing that. It was an old one. It was from the 80s.
Yes. And he says in that, and the communists have taken a page out of this playbook. What they said he said you cannot change a society and its culture all at once.
Right.
But you can change it over generations.
Right.
So here's what they learn. When they try to push it on the American people now, they're not going to take it. It's just like, okay, so Obamacare.
Yeah.
Okay. That was originally Hillary Care.
Right.
It was the same thing back in the 90s. They tried to push it, but there were too many blue dog Democrats at the time to let it pass.
Right.
Now they're pushing, they push it through under Obama and it passes. Okay. So they wait on those generations till those new generations come in. They can change that generation a little bit at a time. They're patient with it. But what's happening here is, yeah, they pushed it all at once now, but don't think that they're ever going to stop or give up on it. It's still in their notes or in the back of their head. They're going to go back to it. I mean, it's coming up. It will come up.
Well, and it's the same thing that they did that you can read in Das Kapital. I mean, when you read Marx, it's controlling the education system. So right, so once you have control over the education system, there then begins the indoctrination. Then it's slow incremental change over time. And they've been doing this. We talk about we lose our minds over Obamacare, and it gets passed, and now it's part of law. And this happens with all sorts of things, right? That the Democrats push it, they get it into law, they write it into legislation, or they just use their ability to manipulate the media and apply social pressure. And we're worried about the next election, and they're thinking about 4 elections from now. They're going through high school debate stages, saying, "Oh, this kid looks promising. Maybe we could." He's eloquent, and he's
Like
you know what I'm saying?
recruiting for the NBA.
Dude, it's like
Once he hits high school, he's out.
that's
He's
it.
on my
Well,
team.
they are. It's like these football teams recruiting these young kids.
Yeah.
Not even recruiting them, but they're scouting them, and we're playing election cycle by election cycle. We have not been playing the long game. We being conservatives and Republicans, and the Democrats have beat us at that relentlessly.
But there's
consistently.
where I say, though, I said earlier, I think that's where we're going to go back to this new generation of conservatives coming into Congress.
Well, Gen X is, or not Gen X, Gen Z. Which one of the ones is the most conservative? They're like support for Donald Trump amongst these younger people is actually growing quite a bit. Like there's a lot of people who have lived under this woke stuff that are like, it's kind of like rejecting, their body's rejecting the
And
serum.
I think that's the thing. And I think that's what it's taking is these people going, now people go, I hear people say, well, it's too late. Well, it's not too late. Like you can't lose faith in the American people. We can pull through it, but now it's not going to happen over one presidency.
Exactly.
So what
Multiple
you're going to have to
presidencies,
do
yeah.
is it's going to have to be multiple presidencies and
Congress.
to be able to put us back on track. And I think what the biggest issue is with the American people is we become lackadaisical. So we come to this point where we go, oh, the economy's great. It won't matter if we put this guy in. He won't get his extremist agenda passed. And then all of a sudden we're turning around going, wait, why are there troops in my house and airplanes flying over my head and
Right.
bombs going off? So the thing is like we have to maintain that no matter whether the times are good, times are bad. You have to stay with your core beliefs and believe that the American people are what make this country great. And that's that's always frustrated the communist Democrats. That has always frustrated them.
Well, we're never more than, I think it might have been Reagan that said it. We're never more than one generation away from losing our freedom. And it's very, very true. We have a lot of youngsters that are, people that are getting into politics now that are a little authoritarians. I mean, they are straight up authoritarians. But, as people see what that, what that does to a society, then that we shift. It's the pendulum, man. We have swung left and right for the entire history of our country, really. And
Oh, it goes back even to, I mean, you look at the days, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson hated each other.
oh yeah,
Hamilton was pro big government, and Jefferson was more for the people. And
Right.
and and Jefferson didn't like George Washington because he wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm picking sides.
Right.
So it was
Well,
like,
but the problem is that they, like I said a little while ago, is that we have compromised to the left, and so the pendulum has been swinging, but it's almost like it's swinging more one way than the other.
That's true.
And it needs to swing back in the opposite direction. Which is why we need, if we could ever put together, and I don't know how often it's happened, for one party to be in power for more than 2 terms, I think it's a rarity. I'd have to go back and look. But if we had like true conservatives, I'm not talking about big R Republicans. The big R Republicans like Bush are what got us into this situation in the first place.
Don't get me started on him.
Oh gosh. But and I used to love the guy. I think as a person, the way he presented
for
himself
the
was
time,
good.
for what happened,
He was the right person.
he was the right person. And until you go into the economic situations and everything,
And the Patriot Act and all that other stuff that
and the overreach of the government and everything else. Like it was, he was just a little left leaning on everything else except the situation at hand that we had to take care of.
But we need that. We need a long run of Republican control in the House and the Senate, and a Republican president, and because we have the easiest argument to make. I think I said this in my last video, but my mind keeps coming back to it. We have such an easy argument to make, and that is, we don't want to take your rights. We don't want to take your liberties. We don't want to take your freedoms. We want to give you freedom of speech. We want to give you the right to self-preservation. Like, our stance should be the easiest one to make. But because of how in academia and places like that, they have, misrepresented and contorted what our society actually is. We're full of racists, and we're full of bigots, and we're full of homophobes, and full of all this stuff. They've oddly made our position hard to argue in the public square.
Well, here's the thing, but in general, okay, if you were to go out, and I know this because I've talked to several of these people, and if you talk to somebody that's on which I don't call them Democrats, just so everybody knows, I call them Communist Democrats. That is my official name of them. So, but if you go out and you talk to these people that vote Communist Democrat, what happens is that they may agree with every economic thing going on as far as like taxes, just in general, they'll agree with the conservative side, but you just hit one of those values, and then what happens is they go, nope, I'm voting Democrat. And it's like, well, you agree with everything else, but because they have taken over this environmental control, which is, I can go off on that one for a long time, but they do environment. So they will agree on, the amendments to the welfare program, or other lowering taxes, or other situations that you may find yourself, with in the conservative. But when you say, hey, why do you vote this way? It's all for the environment. That's it. Or you ask them the same thing. They agree on everything else except why you vote this way. That's racist.
Well, and if they actually paid attention to the Republican side of things, it's not that Republicans are anti-environment. I mean, nobody is. You know what I mean?
No. Well, here's the thing: is you have to realize and I had this argument with not an argument, like it was a discussion. I guess I say argument, but it was a discussion with a friend of mine, and we were talking about the environment. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, look, I said, here, I'm going to lay this out. You've got communist China, you've got India, they are still considered developing nations, yet they are racing right along with the U.S. And coming up to China, I think, is number one in a lot of this, in a lot of the other situations. So, as far as economy goes, but here's the thing: the U.S. has done so much for the environment. The coal-fired plants now are putting off like 0.4% emissions, if that. So, but think of how much coal they're burning in China. So it's more expensive. It's cheaper for us to ship our coal to China than it is for us to build a plant and ship it to the U.S. So we aren't able to burn it in the U.S. where it's way cleaner. So if you really care about the environment, you're going to burn it in the U.S. So, but instead of sending it over to China or India, where heck, India had to move their capital because the river was so polluted.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Did they really?
Yes, there were talks of it. They were talking about moving the capital because the river was.
They haven't done it yet, though.
I don't think they've done it yet.
Yeah. Good gracious. The Ganges, isn't that the river?
Right.
Yeah, the Ganges River.
That's right. Yeah. It's nasty too. If you've ever seen
yeah.
They get nasty. And you talk about it's like America. I could go out here. I could walk up to any creek and be like, look, I can see the bottom. It's like there.
Have you ever seen Big Bang Theory?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, there's a guy. His comparison was, I would rather swim through the Ganges with a paper cut than do that. Oh gosh. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I lost track. Hang on. I literally just lost.
Sorry, I have that tendency to do that.
No,
Sometimes.
I started thinking about Raj from The Big Bang Theory saying I'd rather swim across the Ganges with a paper cut, and I completely lost track of it.
Well, we were talking about the issues that the Democrats use to affect their voters, and how they do it, and we got into our discussion about the environment, and
Yeah.
then you were getting ready to go on from there after Raj's.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay, I know what I was going to say. Yeah, single issue voters. There's too many single issue voters, and in some cases, like oddly with Republicans, there's for us we shouldn't be single issue voters. However, I would look at abortion, right? I looked at abortion for people that are Christian conservatives, in particular Christian people, voting Democrat, and I'm like, for people that are going so hard in the paint for the murder of babies, it seemed like that was a valid reason to not vote Democrat. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like that, because I believed, because of the ferocity with which I believe that was one of our nation's greatest sins, right? Slavery and abortion. We've cost the lives of a lot of people. But there's a lot of people. Yeah, you're right. There's one that we know, both mutually know, who, if you sit down and talk to her about it, she claims to be just an absolute leftist liberal. And if you really start prodding with the questions, it's like, no, you're not. Like that might be what your friends are and what you say you are, but if you are answering questions like this, there's no way that you can become a liberal.
But see, here's the thing with that person. I think that with her in that situation, I think she probably, her friends are probably in the same boat. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not sitting in the room with them while they have their discussions, but I think her friends are probably in the same boat. But it's just one article, like the whole feminism issues and all the other.
Gosh.
I mean, it's like conservatives are, what people don't realize are conservatives are less government regulation, freedom of speech. We're not necessarily for libertarian, where you're for the legalization of drugs.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
which
that's a place where you and I might.
But you know what? Hey, the thing is of course we agree on a lot of things. So I don't want to put libertarian and conservatism different.
I don't know.
But
libertarians nowadays, I listen to a lot of them. No offense to libertarians, but man, there's some crazy stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is you have to look at conservatism, and it's not that we're not for the environment. We're for the American industrial machine. And it sounds like you're saying this big machine, everybody thinks a Terminator, but it's not. It's because we are the most effective at our craft. When we manufacture stuff, when we use fossil fuels, we're the most effective country at doing this. It doesn't have to be. So they talk about, they thought, well, let's go electric. Okay. Well, then how do you do this when we haven't built a new nuclear power plant since 1970s?
Yeah.
And
with current regulation, would need to be able to get it done.
It'd be 15 to 20 years before you'd ever even start the project.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go, if in 10 years you're behind the ball and behind the 8 ball. So the thing is we have come into these governments like Obama and I guess the environmental movement really started during the Clinton administration. I mean, it's been going on for years, but I think the big push, though, like where it became a real political sticking point for the Communist Democrats was Clinton, because I remember him using it a lot in a lot of his speeches, and then that's one of the ways that helps get them elected.
Yeah,
I just bounced around there so much.
No,
that everybody's
I think,
probably like, "Oh, my head's spinning." I was like,
no. I think that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Greenpeace didn't it start in the '60s. 70s maybe.
Somewhere
I don't know.
back in there. But
Yeah, I could be wrong.
But I mean, really, where I really started to remember hearing it. Now, it may have happened before. Some of the older generation, of the older people listening to the show may remember, hey, he's wrong. This started back then,
1971.
1971.
That's when it started. But you're right. But when it became a major political talking point seems to be somewhere around the Clinton era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, talking about 1971, you sent me that article about AM radio.
Oh, yes. Here we go.
Oh, they're trying to shut us down because of AM radio. And I was like, I don't think I agree with that. Where is that article there?
Oh, no.
There it is. Let's bring that up real quick. Electric cars excluding AM radio and shot to influential conservative talk. And by the way, I'd never heard of Outkick. What is Outkick?
Outkick's actually it was a sports channel that Fox News bought.
Really?
So it was started by the talk show Clay and Buck. I think one of them actually started. I can't remember which one it was. Sorry.
Interesting. No,
But they
I'd
actually
just never heard
started
of
it,
them.
and they sold it out to Fox News.
Oh, okay.
Fox, not Fox News.
Oh, okay. But it says car manufacturers are tuning out AM radio from their latest EV models. The manufacturers allege interference between electromagnetic frequencies from their motors and AM frequencies. The car brands to exclude AM signal include Ford, Volkswagen, BMW, Mazda, Volvo, and Tesla. Specifically, AM radio is home to conservative talk, and thus hosts are skeptical of the reason behind the decision for manufacturers. Let's be perfectly honest, man. They aren't going to be able to. They aren't going to be producing that many EVs that it's going to be that big of a hit on conservatives.
But it's the whole premise behind it. So you have to remember when I talked earlier about you don't change a generation. You don't change a generation all at once, but you change them slowly. But
Clint,
you start pulling that. Look, AM radio. All right, AM, FM radio.
70-year-olds listen to AM radio.
AM.
I follow politics religiously.
AM, FM radio.
And I've never turned on my AM radio.
Hang on. AM, FM radio constitutes for 91% of listenership for the age group 18 plus. 91% in this country. 84 million adult. Yep, go look it up.
I've got to look that up.
You look it up. So over 84 million people listen to AM and FM radio. 87% is podcasts and other stuff. So you have to remember, AM also runs on a lower bandwidth, so it'll reach a longer distance than FM will. Granted, it does get the interference, but that is where a lot of conservative talk shows. That's where a lot of conservative talk shows send their message out to the people in the United States. And so when you start canceling that and pulling that off, you're canceling a whole economy, basically, because you think of it, the smaller radio stations are easier to go on to AM. So it's cheaper for them to go on to AM. They've got all these people employed. Granted, a lot of the FM stations own AM stations, but I mean...
You know what? I mean...
Go ahead.
You have a cell phone. You walk around with a multimedia device in your pocket. You can listen to any podcast, any radio station. You can pull up radio on apps on your phone, and you can listen to it if you want to.
My car does not have an MP3 player.
Yours doesn't.
I listen to AM radio. I am an AM fan. I listen to sports talk.
And gosh. And this is anecdotal. So if
it's like when he calls me up when I'm sitting on the sofa watching Rockford Files, he's like, "What are you, 80?"
Yeah, exactly what I say. Who watches the Rockford Files? This guy, also the same one who listens to AM radio.
Heck yeah.
And so those numbers just don't seem to me to be solely numbers that would be found people turning a dial on a radio right now. I think if they're including people that are listening to AM radio on apps on their phone, because it can be brought in with high quality through Bluetooth connection or through their charger or USB cable or whatever, that they can bring radio into it, fine. But if they're not going to put an AM band receiver inside of a Tesla or inside of a some high-end EV, I'm cool with that, because you can get radio in multiple other ways.
Look at this. Okay, listen to this, and
without
Rush-
ever losing signal. Satellite radio was garbage because of the rates that they were charging and all that stuff, but it's still in most
you
vehicles.
have I get that, but you reach a crowd. Rush Limbaugh was one of the first, like the great Rush Limbaugh was he stuck with AM radio on a lot of his stations. And there are a lot of hosts in the conservative voice and the conservative networks that stick with AM radio. And the thing is, when you start silencing AM radio, you're cutting out not only jobs and an economy, but you're cutting out the voice to the American people that some people may not get it on FM, but they can get it on AM radio. You see what I'm saying? So like there's some areas that FM radio you aren't going to get I think Dan Bongino and people like that, but you listen to it around in our area, you can get AM radio and you can listen to him.
I get that, but in an EV, are the people that are going to lose access to AM radio because they don't have any other way to get access to it the same people that are buying a $70,000 electric car? No.
Hey, you had a friend of yours that had Powered by Coal on the back of his EV.
That's true. I did, but this is different. This is like if we're talking about denying people access to information via AM radio, I don't think that is the people that would say they're taking it out of only EVs. We're removing it. How am I ever going to get access to it in my $70,000 computerized electric car?
But here's the thing, too. Remember this.
Because if you want to listen to Glenn Beck, or you want to listen to Sean Hannity, or you want to listen to whoever else is on there, you can still access their stuff through a phone or through an app.
But see, here's the thing. Radio is free to the consumer.
It is.
Okay. What happens when you turn off that radio and you have to go straight to that cell phone? Then they control you by joining and being a membership, having to join a membership, having to pay this amount of money before you can ever view it.
But that's my point, man.
Just like they're doing to Newsmax, it's the same thing. It is silencing that conservative voice that many Americans need to hear.
But only if they are actually able to get this EV, mandate operational inside the U.S., where we're going to have to start selling our internal combustion engine cars and buying EVs, and then they can control the information. Which I understand. I mean, I agree that that's probably part of why they want us all driving EVs, because EVs can be shut down, the range can be limited. When internal combustion engine gives you much more freedom of movement, and all that. But if we ever got to that point, okay, sure, I would be raising my I'd be raising an eyebrow over that one. But to say that.
But why let him get to that point? Why not nix it before it ever starts? Like, if you get a call,
I would have to see the scientific studies that show that this if it legitimately interferes with the functionality of the vehicle, because there's a lot of Wi-Fi signals and there's a lot of LiDAR and all kinds of other things bouncing off the car, and if it is causing some kind of interference that prevents that vehicle from not hitting somebody, or from staying between the lines, or from braking properly, or whatever it is, then 200% AM radio is just going to have to find another way to get into people's cars.
It's not going to interfere.
They're going to have to.
There's insulations. There's ways they can block it. They have the technology to do it. They just want to get rid of it. I think I'm thoroughly behind the fact.
I don't think
me and my Rockford files are all about the fact that they want to get rid of it, because I mean,
I just don't think it's that.
Get rid. I mean, it is a free way for a lot of people to consume a lot of information, and if you take that away, which we know the Communist Democrats like to do,
I would be shocked to see those numbers. I really want to see I was looking through the thing, but those are the Nielsen numbers, and I don't necessarily believe their figures. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do some research on that one, because I can't imagine a world where the viewership is all that high. I just can't.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. I hate to be right.
Hate to be right. Nice try. Nice try. Oh gosh.
Have mercy.
Well, I think that's a good one to end on because we said we were going to argue about something. But no, thanks. This is fun, man. I enjoyed this one. Thanks for coming on board. Thanks for
no, thank you for having
sitting
me,
down.
man.
This is great.
Aside from the introduction that you gave me, geez, a Pete, I God, I don't walk outside. There'll be police standing out there.
Like, you Dracula's man. He done it, officer. Arrest him. Take him away.
Escorted off in handcuffs.
Yeah, you'll be getting in the car and be like, hey, Clint, I win.
Yeah, I'll just say,
No,
remember this when you're trying to broadcast on AM.
Yeah. Oh gosh, man. No, thanks for coming on board, and I really appreciate it. But for all you all out there, be sure to obviously like, comment, give us your thoughts on all the stuff we were talking about today. Find us on X, Rumble, Locals, and YouTube, and we'll see you all next time.